What's up, everybody? Today we're going to be closing out the Box 1 Prime 9 saga. About 2 months ago I put out a unboxing, setup, and install video. If you haven't seen that yet, I'll put it in the description down below. There's lots of good discussion in the comment section there on issues that I've had, issues that other people have had. We talk about different ways to troubleshoot these various issues. Some people were able to resolve them, some were not. I was not able to resolve all the issues on my drivetrain setup. To kind of jump ahead, I've contacted Box and they're going to give me a full refund, so I'll be going to a different drivetrain setup soon. But yeah, if you just wanted a quick response, it's kind of a no-go from me. And then we're going to dive a little deeper into the specific issues that I had. We'll also talk about some of the things that I liked about this drivetrain setup, because there are some things that I genuinely like about it. I really wish it could have worked out for me, but it didn't, and that's kind of where we are now. So in terms of the install, everything went on just fine. I had to replace the hub driver on my wheel. It normally came with an XD driver. I had to switch to the Shimano driver. That wasn't a big deal. Cassette went right on, derailleur went right on. The chain was a chain, nothing too special there. Shifter went right on. The whole thing bolted up, installed just fine. Setup went pretty well as well. I didn't really have any issues in the setup. I had a little bit of residual noise on the biggest cog of the cassette. I kind of just wanted to take the bike out, ride it for a bit, see if it kind of worked itself in. Looking back now, I don't think a new drivetrain setup should really need to break in. I feel like it should be pretty quiet from the get-go. There really shouldn't be any kind of wear-in period. And if you're having issues at the setup stage, I think it may be indicative of kind of a bigger problem at hand. So yeah, got it all installed, went for a ride. The first ride I went on, I had a lot of noises from, I guess it would be the cassette. It was kind of hard to nail down exactly where it was coming from. It was kind of just general drivetrain noise. I sent Box a couple of emails. I sent them a couple of videos showing them kind of the problem I was having. They couldn't really resolve it through that exchange. So I took it to my local bike shop, and what they found was that my chainring was a non-boost chainring. This is a boost rear hub, so the chain line was off. They ended up replacing the chainring for me for the boost chainring, and that took care of that first major issue. And that noise was really bad. It really sounded like the whole drivetrain was just going to explode. It made me really nervous. I didn't want to like break anything. But so anyways, once the chainring was replaced, that issue I would say was resolved. After that, I always had a lingering noise from the jockey wheel on the derailleur. That still exists. I have never been able to figure out what that is, or I have not been able to figure out what is causing that issue. I tried adjusting the B screw kind of to the minimum range where it was almost touching the biggest cog in the cassette. And I also went the other way, trying to adjust to the maximum B screw setting, and neither one of those produced any noticeable effect on that noise at the jockey wheel. So still not entirely sure what that is, but I've kind of given up on trying to troubleshoot that. The second big issue that I've run into is chain slap on the rear chainstay when I'm in a very small gear. And I don't think that is resolvable either. What I have found, what I think I've found, I don't know, I didn't engineer this thing, but the clutch actually doesn't engage. So what I have found is that the clutch actually doesn't engage for that first, I don't know, we'll say 5 millimeters of derailleur travel. And what that does is the chain's kind of free to flop around when you're in the smallest gear. As you start going into bigger gears, you kind of take up the chain tension, and the rear derailleur kind of swings down into where the clutch is working. The clutch works. It is adjustable. I didn't monkey around with the adjustment because I didn't think it would make that much of a difference, considering that I had this, you know, free motion at the beginning of the travel of the rear derailleur. One thing I did is I tried shortening my chain to kind of pull the derailleur in so that it's actually engaging the clutch, and that did work. It solved my chain slap problem, but then it made it really really difficult to shift into the biggest cog on the cassette, and that's just because it's a shorter chain length, so you've got more tension through your chain, and the derailleur ends up at kind of what I think is a pretty uncomfortable angle for the derailleur. So I am now on a KMC 9-speed chain because I wanted to get it back to the recommended chain length, because I feel the system works best at that chain length. As soon as you start going shorter, you start making other compromises. So yeah, right now I'm on a KMC 9-speed chain. It's kind of nice. It's gold, flashy. I really like the way it looks, but yeah, the rear derailleur clutch just was not working for me. I have found shifting to be a little difficult. It's comparable to a Shimano setup if you felt that, which is okay. For me, that's not necessarily a deal breaker. I've ridden Shimano stuff in the past. I like it. It honestly just didn't feel that crisp. There was times where I would, try to upshift, I would try to downshift, and, I wouldn't quite get there. And then what I found is you have to kind of push beyond the gear you want to be in, and then it'll settle back into that gear, which is okay. I mean, if you're running a drivetrain long enough, you kind of train yourself to push past the gear you want to be in, and it's not that big a deal. You kind of get used to it. Upshifting is just fine. It feels good. It steps down the cogs of the cassette just fine. No complaints there. But all in all, it just didn't feel good. I don't want to compare A brand to B brand, but I've got some other drivetrain setups that just feel buttery smooth and super precise. I can just hit shifts and I just know it's going to be there with minimal effort, and that's kind of what I was hoping for in this drivetrain setup, but it just couldn't get there. So it's not all bad. There are some things I genuinely like about this drivetrain setup. One, the whole idea of a 9-speed I think is fantastic. Being able to still get that range of gear ratio in just a simple 9-speed I think is great. I think the spacing in between the gears is just fine. I think they're evenly spaced. I don't think I ever found myself in a certain gear thinking, man, I wish it was a little bit harder or a little bit easier. It always felt okay. So I have zero complaints about really the geometry or the design of the cassette itself. The second thing is this drivetrain setup does really well with backpedaling. If I'm in the biggest gear doing a technical climb and I need to back up a pedal real quick to get like a full power stroke, I can do that just fine. I think I can do like a full rotation before it really starts to slip off the cog, which is better than any of my 11-speed drivetrains were able to do in the past. That was always a common problem. I don't know how the new 12-speed drivetrains really manage that, and if that's still a problem or not, but this did not have that problem at all, which is fantastic. So what now, right? I emailed Box, kind of like I said in the beginning of the video. I explained to them all the problems that I've had, kind of talked through the different things that I've tried to do to resolve those problems. And I don't know if it's necessarily related to what I was seeing, but they have said that they are recognizing that there's a manufacturing issue with specifically the Box 1 cassette. This is like the fully machined cassette, and they're willing to take returns on those cassettes. They kind of gave me three options on the return. I could either return this cassette, accept a Box 2 cassette, and then they would refund me the difference, or I could send them this cassette back. They'll send me a Box 2 cassette, and when the new Box 1 cassettes are available, they would swap back. So basically end up with the newer version of the Box 1 cassette, no added cost, no refund, no nothing. Or full refund on the whole system. And I went for the full refund on the whole system, mainly because I don't think my problem is necessarily tied to whatever issues the cassette is having. Maybe it is, I don't know. And at this point, I don't really want to gamble more potential downtime if if it is not related, or even if it is related to the cassette. So I'm just kind of cashing out. This was a good experience for me. I found Box to be very pleasant to deal with. I think their customer service is great. I think they've got a lot of potential to be a big player in the drivetrain game. They've been around for, you know, BMX related products for years now. And that was one of the reasons why I initially took the jump to try this drivetrain. Is, you know, they're a smaller company and I want to be able to support smaller companies because they bring innovation and competition to the marketplace. And I think that's kind of needed in mountain biking, the way sales and the whole marketing aspect of mountain biking has been going. So yeah, pretty much once this video is over, I'm gonna unassemble this stuff, box it up, no pun intended, send it on over to Box, and I've got new drivetrain ready to go, bolted on, and I should be good to go. I do want to spend a little bit of time talking about something else I've been thinking about, and that I don't know if my experience can necessarily be tied to just the Box drivetrain. I do believe that, you know, the bike as a whole, and looking at it like a holistic system, it's maybe not necessarily just the drivetrain that was contributing to my problems. It's possible suspension geometry, bottom bracket position, hub spacing, or, you know, the tolerance stack up of the system as a whole. All of these different elements kind of play into this whole system, and, you know, just something to think about. I would be curious to see if people on the same bike had the same experience that I did, or if people on other bikes had different experiences from what I did or from what I had. So I don't know, just something to think about. You know, don't take what I'm saying as gospel, and I would consider the Box drivetrain again at a later time, maybe. I don't know if they refine it. We'll see. So that's kind of it for us today. You know, I appreciate everyone's patience on waiting for kind of this video to come out. I hope it's helped you. If it has, give me a thumbs up, give me a comment down below if you have any questions, if you have any feedback. I do appreciate everyone's support. I appreciate everyone's feedback. The channel's kind of starting to pick up steam. We're starting to grow a little bit. So, you know, all the feedback is welcome, good or bad. I'll take it all. It really motivates me and it inspires me when, you know, I recognize that people are finding this content useful. So I appreciate that, and we'll see you on the next one.